welcome to this new episode of the Uncensored series. Here on the RE chart, and what we can see is that we displaced above that CB which I outlined during the pre-market analysis. I shared with you that this CB is the range to monitor, and if we would displace above it, I would be monitoring to see if it would function as support on price. Currently, we are seeing the 10 o'clock candle open and immediately reprice lower. I'll be monitoring to see whether or not it's going to manage to find support inside the price range of that CB or not. If it does not, then we might begin to see the market wanting to retrace into the range that got established throughout the day, meaning from this low to this high. Let's zoom in onto the lower time frames to see what's going on. 50-minute chart, what we can see that at 9:30 we had this candle with this very small body, but with a long wick to the downside and a small wick towards the upside. We took out the high of that 9:45 candle, and we then formed a high, showed signatures of a high formation, and we then begin to see the market retrace into that ROCB. Right now I'm monitoring to see whether or not this candle will manage to draw towards this sell-side liquidity or not. What's important to note is the fact that ES already took out that low, whilst Nasdaq did not. Let me just showcase to you. Here on the chart of ES, and what we can see is that ES did not manage to displace above the price range of that ROCB which I outlined. But what we can see is that ES is trading below this candle's low, whilst Nasdaq is not. So that's something to monitor moving forward. Let us zoom into the 5-minute chart, just for the sake of full purposes. So what I'm monitoring to see is whether or not we're going to confirm this Kraken correlation here, this lower formation, or not. If we don't, and we see the market begin to show signs of drawing towards this low, then I have no interest in that long scenario. But if we see the signs of, in fact, us seeing bullish order flow stepping in, then I anticipate us to draw towards this high, since this is the high that set up that retracement. So let's go into the 1-minute chart and see what's going on. So at 10:06 we had this very large downclose candle towards the downside, which delivered lower, and the price traded into the lower end of that inversion CB, which I outlined on the hourly chart. Now, a question that some of you might ask is, okay, or this is a question that I've been asked in the past, is the following. It's when do you use the 15-second chart? When do you go into the 15-second chart to determine your setups and such? Well, I go into the 15-second charts when the following is present. When I know that based on the 15-second chart, the order flow is cleaner and I'm likely to see more arrays get created. Here, I do not see a lot of back and forth going inside the sell side of the curve. I just see this one retracement, I see this minor retracement here inside that CB, and I see a retracement here. That's all of the retracements I see. If we go into the 15-second chart, I see many more retracements, and therefore this is cleaner in my opinion, and that's why I pay attention to it. Let me just annotate the 9:30 opening for us here. So here we have the 9:30 opening on our charts. At this point, I'm going to wait and see whether or not Nasdaq will draw towards this low. If it doesn't draw towards that low, that's a Kraken correlation which is still present. Monitor this BC here. And at this point, it's a waiting game. Waiting to see how we're going to react off this leg lower. Are we going to in fact find resistance inside of it or show the signs of strength stepping in? Notice that we formed a CB here. The CB should begin to function as a inverse value gap if price is going to turn bullish. No displacement above the CB yet, so I would be cautious with this. I'd much rather wait and see whether or not the low formation is in. In the past, I've been hurt many times by trying to capture a low risk buy that was not really obviously a low risk buy, so therefore I prefer to wait and see. Notice how the bodies are closing inside of this CB consistently here. So I'm very curious to see how this candle right here is going to deliver. Keep in mind, I'm anticipating this to be the draw on liquidity. Monitor the BC that just got created. Is it going to function as support on price? Yes or no? That's too long. Monitoring to see how we're going to react of it now. I want to see big green candles soon. So far this reaction is good, and I can already throw my stop basically to this low because we should never displace lower again. I am aware of the fact that there's a cracking correlation on the highs here as well on my target, so I'm monitoring to see how that will get utilized, but so far so good. I want to see whether or not we will manage to displace outside of the price range of this hourly inversion value gap. So far happy with that reaction. 930 opening price. Next key level. Going to take a partial in this area here. Taking one contract off. The reason why I'm taking one contract off is due to the fact that we've reached this CB, which is above the 930 opening price. So I want to see how we're going to react with that. I need to give it a different color due to the fact that we have that larger CB, of course, which is also the same color. So I'm monitoring to see at this stage whether or not we are going to displace above this price range and utilize the support or not. At this stage, I don't really care anymore because I already took profits and I'm already content with enough. I do not want to see a deep retracement taking place, so that means I'm going to trail my stop to around here. And the reason why I'm trailing it here is because if you take a look on the left side of the curve, you can see that we had this low, high, lower low. So that's a retracement which took place from there. So I do not want to see the market this place below this low again. So we're seeing a rejection of that 1 minute CB, as you can see here. I'm monitoring to see whether or not we're going to reject it deeply or not. I'm not a fan of the fact that we're retracing that deep. So my stop is likely going to get reached here. Going to give it a bit more room, meaning just a few points lower. The reason why is because if we are in fact going to see the market really tap the low of that price level and then reject it and take me out, I would be upset about that, of course. So I am going to take the safer route. I'm happy with the partial. And there the trailed stop gets hit. Good trade management, and that's this setup done. Notice how we had a opportunity from this low right here, from this area, which was of course a bit outside of the lower end of that hourly CB's price range, to this premium CB. Came to the charts again, and I saw the following. See that we are not displacing lower, and we are instead finding support inside this sequence of downward candles. And that's interesting because on the 1 minute chart, what we see is that that same sequence of downward candles is actually one bullish order block, and this is also a bullish breaker formation where you see a low, high, lower low formation, of course, and therefore your eye is immediately drawn to that range to see if it will function as support and price. Right now we can see that price is just chopping around. It's going back and forth, and I anticipate that this chop is going to continue until the moment that the time is right for an expansion to take place. And our job is to recognize when that is the case, and therefore I'll be paying attention to whether or not this low is going to stay intact. As long as we do not displace below the 1009 low, I anticipate us to eventually see a buy program unfold, and then this CB, where I took the initial trade to, will be an inversion value gap moving forward. So I'm just going to chill out a bit, and I'm going to keep you updated. Notice that 10 o'clock, by the way, took out the previous cycle low, and with previous cycle low, I refer to a smaller cycle low. So what we can see is that we engineered sell-side liquidity here during 940 and 950. So we took out that sell-side liquidity, but we did not take out the previous 30-minute cycle low, which of course formed here, and that's the low where we're seeing SFT with. So I do not want to make this too colorful. You're probably already distracted by the annotations that I have, but try to follow along. There's a cracking correlation on the lows here between Nasdaq and ES, where Nasdaq created a lower low. You see that ES created a higher low. Notice, however, that the bodies are relatively equal. So that is something to monitor. Saw on the mentorship forum, by the way, whilst recording this live, that some of you were actually able to capture this short. Nice job on that, and let's see whether or not a long opportunity will present itself or not. Could have technically already went long inside this BC since we displaced above this high, but preferably I want to wait for a bit more confirmation of where in fact now bullish and going to expand. All right. Yeah, as you can see, I just went wrong again on Nasdaq, and the reason why I went wrong was because I saw the failures to displace lower, so that signaled strength for me. And when I saw us have CSD, I went wrong. I'm monitoring to see if this CB will now function as an inverse value gap on price. I'm monitoring to see if we will draw towards the buy side liquidity next. All right, I'm taking a partial here. Means I'm taking a partial inside of this buy side liquidity pool, and the reason why I'm taking a partial is because of the fact that there was nothing really to me signaling that the order for on the higher time frames has truly shifted bullish. Okay, we're trading away from that hourly CB as outlined. However, is that by itself already enough for me to feel bullish? Not just yet, and therefore I need to wait. Need to wait and see, okay, how are we going to deliver then? Stop can be trailed. Market should not displace below this lowest BC here, and also below the inversion value gap. If that occurs, I need to get out. Just show my stop a bit more perfect, like that. Because you see that long wick right here. This long wick has to function as support on price. This long wick already traded into this smaller BC here, which formed, and therefore it should not get displaced below. And that's why I'm managing this position like this. Missed out on a pyramid, unfortunately. Initially would have wanted to add a contract here, but I'm not going to do so if I could. Yes. It's possible, but I'm going to wait. I'm not going to add to this position. I'm going to simply monitor to see how we are going to treat this inversion value gap. And there you can see pyramiding was in fact the right choice to make, but it is what it is. The reason why I considered the potential pyramid was due to the fact that at 10:36 we had this sudden drop lower, so this sudden drop lower could be manipulation. I'm happy I did not get taken out, so let's see if the final draw will get met. One contract left on the table and happy with that. I'm not a fan of this reaction. I want to see whether or not we're going to see a continuation higher taking place. Let me take a look at the 50-second chart. The other screens as well. Is there SMT? No, there's not. This downcast candle has to function as support on price. All right. We now have a correct correlation on the highs. That to me kills the trade.